Hey, I'm Brianne Williamson and I'm currently doing laundry, so sorry about the quality of this video. If you're here often, you're aware that this is the common quality. Buckle up. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and thank you in advance for watching it all the way to the end. Before I get into it, I just want to make it clear that in this video, I am speaking to other white folks like myself, specifically queer white folks, and even more specifically, queer white women. If you are not in that category, of course, please watch. Please feel free to check me on any part of this video. But just know that I am specifically talking to other white queers. I also want to mention that some or all of what I say today might be something that I look back at and go, yikes. The reason I know I might do that is because so many times in my life, I have looked back at something I said a month, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, whatever ago, and gone, wow, what was I thinking? I might look back and wish that today I knew more. But like so many times in my life, I know that while I may be embarrassed, I'll also be grateful that I unlearned something and learned something else, and therefore am less ignorant. That's the goal, always. I actually think that exercise is super helpful, or at least it has been for me, because when you look back and realize that a way that you felt about the world before, or you look back on ignorance of something that you believed in the past, when you look back and see that right here and now you feel differently, you also become very aware that right here and now you might be wrong. So it actually opens your mind for your beliefs to be uprooted, and it gives you space to change. Accept that, because I think that's when great things happen. In the words of Kinky Boots, you change the world when you change your mind. I genuinely believe that. So with all of that said, I am doing my best today with the knowledge that I have, but I am committing to actively trying to always search for new knowledge that might correct or change the way that I'm feeling right now. The big thing that I have learned over the last few weeks is the importance of being anti-racist. In fact, I don't think I'd ever really thought about that before at all. The sad thing is that I actually already knew that that is something that I wanted from LGBTQ plus allies. I actually guested on a podcast that was recorded a couple months ago. And that podcast was just posted this week because it was recorded for Pride Month. And when they posted the promotion for it, they quoted me on an Instagram story. And the quote was something to the lines of, as an ally, what I expect as an LGBTQ plus individual is that allies aren't just not being homophobic. They're actively sticking up for us, supporting us, even when we're not around, and even when it doesn't affect them, and even when they don't know if anyone's ever going to hear about whether they stood up for us at all. That they're actively being allies, not just not being homophobic. When I saw that quote, I was really slapped across the fucking face, because I was like, how crazy is it that something that I have been screaming about for years and so badly wanting allies to hear, I was so focused on that for LGBTQ plus people and so self-centered in that for myself, that through that and through my whiteness, I was unable to step away and see which minorities I was not doing that for. I had been processing this and a lot of other knowledge over the last few weeks, as many of us white folks have, because Jesus Christ, can we just acknowledge that as white people really need to shove shit down our fucking throats for us to wake up? And that's pathetic and frankly really embarrassing that it took all of this for us to just not accept shit for what it was. Yikes. But like many white people, I have been really trying to learn how to be actively anti-racist over the last few weeks. And with that, I followed Jade Fox on Instagram. I think that was about 3 weeks ago. And I want to make that clear that I only followed Jade 3 weeks ago because I did not want to make it sound like I've been following her for years and supporting her for years. No, I actually did exactly what Jade mentioned in her video, and I posted to my Instagram story, does anyone know any great queer Black creators? As if it was some niche demographic that I was never going to be able to find unless people just delivered it to my doorstep. So I only posted that a few weeks ago, so that's embarrassing. But here we are trying to grow, and I had followed Jade, and then yesterday Jade posted this video to her Instagram, a short clip of the full-length video on YouTube discussing white lesbians in the YouTube space. And before I try and get into what that video was, if you have not watched it, I will link it in the description down below. Please go subscribe to Jade and make sure to watch that video in its entirety. Then you can come back here and hear what I have to say. But she really needs to be heard first. She did the work. She gave so much emotional energy to that and really put herself out there, which is just outrageous that she even had to do for this conversation to start. She did it anyways, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I watched the video and I took notes and I did my best to listen and to learn from what she was saying. And I commented on the Instagram post and I commented on the YouTube video. And I did that yesterday, and honestly, at first I thought that would be enough. And then I sat with it last night and I thought, okay, my fears of being this like white person talking right now, when I really don't think I deserve space, is actually taking away from me utilizing my white privilege to hopefully reach other white folks and maybe change their mind about what she was talking about. So I want to speak to that video to not only help amplify Jade's voice, but also hopefully make a change both in myself and this channel, and also in any viewers' minds that are watching. I'm gonna be honest, when I was watching the video, there's a point where Jade is naming names of white lesbian YouTubers, and she's going through the names, and I was kind of like, is she gonna name me? And then I remembered I'm not relevant enough to be named. And then that was also kind of a gimme for me in the fact that as a white person, I was like, well, I'm not big enough anyways, so I'm not a big enough part of the problem, so I'm just gonna like comment and then sit back. And then I was like, I'm literally using that as an excuse. Like, because I don't have a million subscribers, I'm not gonna speak to something. I am part of the problem, so yeah. So I don't know what the ridiculous mind games that white people play with ourselves of trying to convince ourselves that we are not part of the problem. I'm just acknowledging that. So I want to go back to before I was out, and I have told this story many a times on my channel, on my podcast, blah, 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 about how I was flicking through channels and I stumbled across the L word. And I was so excited to see myself in any way, shape, or form represented in media. As a queer woman, I grew up not knowing other queer women. I didn't know anyone else who was out. I didn't have that representation, and I honestly just didn't even know what it meant to be a lesbian. I didn't know that it was possible for me to be a lesbian. I just didn't have any of that. So when I got a little piece of representation, I was just so excited. And I was definitely not dissecting that representation in any way of if it was non-problematic, if it was intersectional. Like, I was not thinking about that at all. I was just like, holy shit, women can be gay and they can fuck each other. Wow. That was enough for me at that point. So flash forward years of figuring out my sexuality, and people in my town that I grew up in started kind of talking, and I heard lots of through the grapevine kind of stories about what my identity was and who I was and whether or not I was dating and sleeping with women. And while I had come out to some close friends and family, I was sick of people telling my story for me, so I made a coming out video on YouTube. Honestly, I had never watched YouTube before. I didn't even know that like YouTubers were a thing. I thought that it was just a place you went to like watch music videos or things that happened on TV that you wanted to replay. But I just wanted to put a video out there and be like, okay, that's there now. It's from my mouth. Anyone who wants to hear my story can hear it from me. And this way I don't have to go around to every single house, door knocking in my small town and let them know how I actually feel and who I actually am, which is a lesbian. I made that video, and then naturally, because of that video, I started getting recommendations on YouTube. Here's where the problem lies. As white people, we expect whiteness in media. We expect that to be the status quo because that is what we are given. Because we are white and because we have been so privileged in always seeing our faces on our TV screens and in our magazines, I think that we just expect whiteness, so we don't even notice it anymore. For example, like when I'm watching a movie and the two leads are white, I'm not like, oh, interesting, the two leads in this movie are white. Doesn't cross my mind because that is what the usual is. I notice when one or both of the leads are people of color. I notice that because it seems unique, which is a problem. So the reason I say that is when I started getting recommended other lesbian YouTubers on YouTube, honestly, I didn't even notice that they were all white. Didn't even think about it because I was like, there's a lesbian YouTuber. There's a lesbian YouTuber. I'm so used to seeing white representation, and I was honestly just so excited to see other lesbian people that were around my age speaking about who they were openly on the internet and being aware that anyone like me could be out there, that I didn't even think about, this is so embarrassing, I didn't even notice that while I was scrolling all of these names of like this new world I had found, that I was not seeing Latina lesbians, Asian lesbians, Black lesbians, Indigenous lesbians. I didn't even notice it. I did not even notice it. That's a problem. So when I was watching Jade's video, I thought back to that first like year on YouTube and was thinking back to the fact that I wasn't even aware that the lesbians I was seeing were never Black, that I was never recommended to Black lesbian creators. And I want to acknowledge that they were there. It's not like there just wasn't that representation available. Like when I'm talking about TV or movies, you could argue that like, but that representation just wasn't given to me. So I wasn't able to find the rom-coms with Black actors in it. You could maybe argue that, okay? But those creators were there. They were making content. A lot of them were there first. And they were just not showing up anywhere on my feed. And when I thought back to it, I realized that the very first time that I remember discovering a Black lesbian YouTuber, it was because she was collaborating with a white lesbian YouTuber that I was following. So I want to validate what Jade said, not that she needs my validation, but as white creators, we need to do our part in beating the algorithm by amplifying Black creators and their voices. We cannot sit back and say, well, it's not my problem. I put my content out there. If Black lesbians don't show up, then that's on YouTube. No, not good enough. That's not good enough. We need to get other perspectives other than white lesbian perspectives on your screens. It's actually dangerous that you are only potentially hearing the perspectives of white lesbians. Dangerous. My privilege as a white person meant that I immediately got to see myself represented as a lesbian on YouTube. And as white lesbian creators, we need to acknowledge that even though we are a minority ourselves, being LGBTQ+, that does not mean that we are exempt for helping other minorities be heard in the same way that we expect people to hear us. As a smaller white lesbian YouTuber, I'm at like 50K now after 5 years, so my content must be the shits if YouTube's algorithm can't even help my white ass out. I have spent the last few years being so excited to be included in any sort of campaign or list or favorites video. To be honest, I've gotten so used to seeing the same like 6 to 10-ish white lesbians being on every panel and in every favorites video and in every campaign that when I was included in anything, I was just so excited to have made the cut that I selfishly wasn't even thinking about the fact that I was taking someone's seat whose voice needed to be heard more than mine. I was so excited that my content could be getting any sort of funding or clout that it didn't even cross my mind once to check that everyone had a seat at the table. Truthfully, like I would just be so excited to get that email, like, hey, you want to be on our panel? Or like, do you want to like collaborate on this pride campaign? That I'm like, oh my God, I made the list. Like they're contacting me. Never even considered who else they were contacting. I mean, I assumed who it would be, and it didn't include black lesbians, so. In other words, I've been fucking selfish, and that's unacceptable. From here on out, if I get invited to speak on a panel or work with a brand, I am committing to making sure before accepting that invitation that they are also working with black creators. And if they aren't, I will be giving up my seat to somebody who represents more than just a white perspective. Honestly, for a creator of my size, that might mean that I'm not speaking at all. Like, I want to be clear that I only get maybe 1 or 2 speaking or event invites a year, that I'm on a panel or something like that. I get, a few brand deals every Pride, which is super exciting. But that's okay if those are gone. But it means that black voices and other perspectives from POC creators get to be heard, then it's worth it. I also want to mention that I also think it's really important that some panels or some events are very much black focused and centered. There should be panels where every single creator is black. In the same way that we as a whole know it's important to have LGBTQ+ spaces, it's important that there are spaces that people of color, that minorities like black folks get that to just be their space without us white people sucking the air out of the room. When protesting in Vancouver a couple weeks ago, I made a sign. Well, actually my sister wrote it out for me because my handwriting is terrible. But I made a sign that said, "Out and proud, thanks to black trans women and black lesbians." Shockingly, or not so shockingly actually, I got quite a bit of backlash about that sign from white queer women. To those people, I say that you have a lot of learning to do, and that's for a different video. Long story short, we all have a lot of learning to do, and we need to acknowledge that. I am so grateful to be out and proud as a lesbian and to have this platform and to be able to speak to issues that I really believe in and to be able to be an activist I am so grateful for my followers and the people that listen to me. But I need to acknowledge that the reason I get to do all of that is because of Black folks. That's the bottom line. Specifically Black trans women and Black lesbians, Black butch lesbians. And I think it's important that we all acknowledge that. I don't think that there's anything wrong with acknowledging that. There seems to be this weird thing that white queer people think it takes away from their queerness or their ability to be an activist when they say that. But actually by saying that, you are being an activist. So it's just a backwards way of thinking. Us white people need to stop asking Black folks what to do. Why are we still asking? Like, they've told us. We know what to do. We're just so fucking lazy that we need to like drain these people for a step-by-step of how we should actually actively change or do the work. They've already given us so many resources. Like, there is so much information out there. I actually thought before recording this video, like, oh, maybe I should reach out to a few Black creators and see if they want to tell me if what I'm saying is appropriate. What the fuck? Oh yeah, they have time for that right now. For my white ass video that's gonna go up of me blabbering for 20 minutes. Lord knows how long I've been talking. Do you all mind just like proofreading that for me? What the fuck? Jade, in her video, outlined it all. It's there. She gave like step-by-step tools of what us white lesbian creators can do. And that's just one example. Like, Google, in the same way it gets frustrating when, as an LGBTQ plus person, as a lesbian, I feel like it's really insulting to constantly be asked the same like baseline questions over and over when I've already spoken to them so many times and I know there's so much information out there. In the same way that like I acknowledge that I am giving a gift to heterosexual people when I explain to them how we need them to be allies, I feel like I'm giving them a gift. I'm like, that information's out there, but I'm gonna go ahead and utilize my emotional energy to give you a gift right now. I'm gonna drain myself a little further because maybe it'll help change the world. In the same way that I feel that way when I'm talking about LGBTQ plus rights, Black people are so exhausted right now. Like, we cannot even imagine. We do not understand. You think you're exhausted? You think you're exhausted? Has this 3 weeks been really draining for you? Like, we need to check ourselves, okay? The information is out there. We need to, as white people, start utilizing our privilege to speak on it, to try and change things, to be active, to keep listening, to actively unlearn and relearn and combine resources. Like, as white people, like, if you need resources, ask other white people. Hey, have you found any other resources from Black voices? Can I see those? Let's do that for each other instead of asking Black people over and over again. Okay, hey, can you resend those resources? Like, come on. So again, I appreciate Jade doing that work. Go watch that video in full if you still haven't. There's a lot of great tips if you are a white creator. Some tips from me that I can maybe provide, some things that have helped me as a white person over the last few weeks is, one, do the Instagram scroll check. So like, go down your phone and see how long it is before you see a Black creator on your Instagram timeline or on your YouTube homepage or whatever it is. I did that test like 3 weeks ago and it was embarrassing as fuck. I hardly saw any Black creators, and the ones that I did see were Black gay males or Black drag queens. I was following like no Black lesbians. None. Nowhere to be seen. I'm a dyke. Why am I not following other lesbians that are not white? What is going on? So that was when I followed Jade. I followed a few other amazing creators. I'm gonna link a bunch of them in the description down below. I think that was one thing that really like just fucking knocked me out, knocked me off my feet and was like, wake up, Brie, and smell your racism because we have work to do. If you are someone who is a brand owner or you run events, you have some amazing power to include these people. to include different perspectives. And I would love to see a change where you don't just invite the people that are the biggest or the most popular, but invite the people whose voices have not been heard yet. Because I think that when you look at like certain events, YouTuber events or whatever, I mean, I've never been to VidCon or any of those other ones. I've never been to any YouTuber event in the States. And but I just know I see the advertisements come up and it's always the same fucking people. It's the same people. Give someone new a platform. Because the people that have bought tickets for the past 5 fucking years might want to hear a different perspective, especially when it comes to something important like LGBTQ plus rights. We're not all the same person. And if you are someone who enjoys YouTube content, I would suggest that you try and find some new creators to watch. Still watch your faves, but like, Jesus, if I still watched the first creator that I watched and only the first creator I watched, I would still be just watching Graveyard Girl, which, like, you know what? No hate, Swamp Family for life, but there were things out there that were more meaningful for me and that I have learned to enjoy in different ways. So don't be so stuck in with the same people that you've been watching forever. Like, diversify your screens. And also, don't just follow some random person because they fit this one category that you feel like you should be following. Actually do the work and like watch a bunch. Because like, you're not gonna like everyone. It doesn't mean you have to like every lesbian creator you watch, every black creator you watch, every, trans YouTuber you watch. Like, different people like different personalities or enjoy different types of content. So that's okay too, but it's just messed up and you have to really check in with yourself when it's like, am I just enjoying all this content because they're white, able-bodied, and skinny? If that is the reason you're enjoying your content and that's how your screen is always looking, then you need to check in with that and maybe give some other folks a chance because there's some really amazing creators out there. Once again, I commit to actively trying to unlearn, relearn, do the work, champion for Black people and minority voices. I commit to giving up my seat when those folks are not represented. I commit to listening and I just want to be better and do better. And I think we can all be better and do better. And if you're sitting there thinking that you can't, then that is a problem because there is so much that I guarantee you don't know and I don't know. And with new information, we are going to be blown out of the water. That was me closing my laptop. I thought it was going to be really effective, but you can't see it. So it didn't do anything for you at all. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like, subscribe. No, just joking. Go follow, subscribe, like all the creators that I tag in the description, amplify their voices, and let's do the fucking work.